I just want to really make a point here about how practice really makes presence. And this is a very different way of being than the traditional top-down way that we're all taught in terms of how we learn something, right? We kind of learn something and then we often move on to the next thing and the next thing. And, you know, in our world where we're so bombarded by novelty and by very short little segments of attention and then looking for something new, it really is very unusual to have a practice that you repeat over and over and over again. So from a content place, that makes sense in terms of content. Why would you just keep going over the same content over and over again? But from an embodied place, this is how bodies process information and experiencing and learn and invite presence, is through being with something as a practice again and again. Because each time you do it from an embodied place, it's fresh. Because this is the next sentence and the next moment and the next second. And each time we're here in this next second, it's fresh. So it can take some time to kind of get yourself used to that idea that you would come back to the 6 steps of focusing and have it as a practice in your life ongoing. And you'll find that as you do that, it deepens and blossoms over time. And I can really see this as people are learning the practice of focusing and staying with it and having different focusing partners, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So each partner that you have brings in new energy into your sense of embodiment together. And that changes the practice as well. So one of the things that Gendlin did in part of his research in looking into the process of focusing was to develop what he called the experiencing scale. And he did this with a group of people. The source is at the bottom. You're welcome to look it up on Google Scholar. And we found this to be a really interesting and very helpful way of talking about the client experience. Some clients really like this kind of thing, and we share it with them and teach them how we use the experiencing scale. And we're going to visit it again when we get into more to polyvagal theory. But for now, I wanted to just share with you Gendlin's version of it. And so he created 7 steps in the scale, levels. And the first level is the place where he describes how the client is simply talking about events and ideas and other people. And so this is can often happen in the first part of a session when a client comes in and, you haven't seen them for a week or two. And so they start to just kind of fill you in on, well, this has been happening and that's been happening. And they might even say something like, I had a lot of problems with my son over the past 2 weeks. And then what else has been going on? That big storm happened and our basement flooded. And so you see there that in terms of their level of experiencing, the depth of experiencing, they're just up at a 1. They're just kind of describing something, but they're not down in their body at all. But that's okay, because it's the beginning of the session. They're kind of giving you an overview. And so you get that overview, and then as the session progresses, you begin to look for things in what they're sharing with you, in the process of what they're sharing with you, where they might pause, or you might invite them to pause, to begin to drop down more into a whole embodied felt sense of what they're experiencing. So if you then go back and say to the client, well, okay, so tell me a little bit about what happened there with your son, then you might see that this person can go down into first level 2, where they begin to talk about, themselves in terms of, well, this was happening, and then he said this, and then he said that. And then you kind of watch to see, well, can the client go a little deeper into expressing emotion about it? So then they might say, I was really upset by what he shared, and what he said, I felt actually kind of scared. So there we're at a level 3, right? It's like they're expressing emotion, but it's not going down into the body yet. It's kind of like getting a sense of it for sure. But they could also just kind of stay there and spin around in a flight-fight place. And that wouldn't be coming into the felt sense in the body, right? So by a level 4, the client is focusing directly on their emotions and their thoughts, and they're able to pause into it and say, as I go back to what was going on with my son and I'm sharing that with you, I'm really starting to get a sense of how I need to pay attention to what's happening for him. And that would be a really good thing to work on today, because I'm struggling with it. So you feel the person slowing down a bit and developing this capacity to pause and reach inside a little bit. It's a nice kind of level 4, right? Then by 5, they're really engaging in an exploration of that inner experience. So then you can facilitate that by saying, okay, let's really pause there and just notice what happens in your body as you're sharing this about what's going on with your son. And here you see the felt sense start to form, and they say, yeah, it's that familiar sick kind of feeling that I have in my stomach, that sometimes I feel about what's going on for him. And then as the therapist or the coach, or you can say, so is it all right to just kind of stay there and go in there a little bit more? And then you see a whole felt sense start to form. The physical sensation maybe of this kind of sick feeling, the fear, the thoughts about it, like what's going to happen for him, what's he doing with his life, or I worry about where he's going to be, by the time he gets to high school, or whatever that is in there. And then maybe there's some kind of memory associated with that comes in the felt sense. Like, I remember with my brother, for example, that he really went through a hard time, something that resonates in the body. And then you might also help your client to just place a hand where they feel the fullness of that felt sense. Because, touching into the body like that helps to really capture the essence of it. And then you see them move down. So you're around a 5 and a 6, and you're staying with them in the felt sense. And you might say in step 5, what does that place need in you? And again, you can tell if somebody zips back up to their head and starts making an answer, or whether they're down in their body. And what comes is something like, I need to really stop avoiding talking to him about this stuff. I need to I need to take him out for dinner and see if I can make a safe enough space with him that we can really open and talk about it. And at the same time, I think I need to hold on to my fear and try to really be there for him. And then you see, as this comes, this kind of real direction and knowing, it's like you can see the shift in the client. You can see a physical release in the body. They begin to gain this kind of awareness of something that they kind of knew in the background there, which is, you need to really pay attention to this. And it starts to come to the surface and they feel better. It's like, yeah, I really need to address this issue. This happens a lot in focusing, where we, when we pause and allow time, we realize what we really need to do. And when we realize it in the body, when your body feels better realizing it, then you feel the motivation in the body to carry forward. So by level 7, there's this really deep ongoing process of a powerful sense of knowing the direction that you need to go and stay on in order to really deal with this significant problem in your life. And so this is very important because in our culture, we go so fast. We look for so much that's new. We're so afraid to touch into depth and feeling that we miss what we need to do to heal, which is to pause and to make enough safety and respect within ourselves and in relationship that we can really listen to what we know is true, which is that we must deal with what's uncomfortable. And so these 7 levels are, I found, very helpful. And I use them in teaching, and I use them in, I made an embodied assessment and treatment tool, which is not part of the course, but we use it in this and as a way of like trying to really assess like what's going on somatically for our clients. We don't have a lot of assessment tools that are somatic. So this was Gendlin's contribution to that, and I think it was really significant. We have a way then of being able to say this person was around, hovering around in the session around a 2 or a 3, and they really were not feeling comfortable to go deeper into a 4. And I know what that means. I know what that means when my student says that to me. Or they'll say this person was really at a 1 or a 2 and nothing changed. Nothing went deeper. They don't feel emotions a lot of the time. And then I know if that person's at a 1 or a 2 and they're struggling there for a long period of time through the weeks, that they're in a pretty numb and dissociated place, and in a dorsal place, as we would call in the autonomic nervous system. And that's very helpful because then we also can go to, well, what can we do to help them to deepen that level of experiencing? What kind of safety do they need? And maybe they aren't safe in their life. And if they're actually not safe in their life, their body's not going anywhere. It's not going to shift down at all because that's not a good thing to do when you can't survive. Same is true for addictions. If the body is stuck in that addictive trauma feedback loop and it's not a safe place to come forward, doesn't matter what you do, bodies will triumph and they will take care of us in order to survive.